Happy Saturday, everyone. Nice to see you today. It's my privilege to be with you today. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm your moderator. Today we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if you would join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And to get us going today, we have the president of Northern State University with us, Dr. Neil Schnorr, and I'm sure he's got more positive things to share with us about Northern.
Well, on behalf of Northern, welcome. We're thrilled to host this event, as always. Our campus, we kind of overlap with legislators, with our public schools, in serving the public good. And so today I'll just make a couple of comments and then welcome our legislators. We have begun the process of constructing our new Business and Health Innovation Center. Right now we're doing asbestos abatement. If any of you have ever done that, you know the process is always supposed to take 3 weeks and it takes about 13. Just the way it goes, there's always something else in there when you start taking things out of an old building. And again, the new facility replaces Lincoln Hall, and we don't knock buildings down for no reason. We're renovating a building for Gerber in education. It was built in 1905. But this building is an old residence hall, and it simply will not, it's not conducive to the kind of space we need for a 21st century nursing and business program. It also has, I don't know how many tons of concrete and pillars, so you can't open up the space. These huge columns have to support the next floor that weighs how many tons above it and so on. So what we're doing, we're committed. When I talk about the public good, we're training the business leaders, the accountants, the banking and finance folks, and of course nursing. And I keep talking about nursing because this is going to take a community effort. One of our major providers in the state told me that just in the area, they will have a shortage within a year of 500 registered nurses. And when we talk about economic development today, it doesn't exist without health care, without education, without water, without agriculture, without housing. And so we have to be part of this solution. And I want to thank our legislators up here who have supported that effort all through the process. The other one that we haven't talked about very much, but I think it's my pivot for the day, which is Northern has a Center for Public History and Civic Engagement. We hear a lot about young people don't know a lot about how our government works. I'm going to say something a little controversial. I don't think we have several adults that know how our government works either. It is critical that our students understand their Constitution. It's critical that they understand at every step there was debate, disagreement, factions, and they got together and they worked it out in civil discourse. Not everyone can win every time. But how does our government work? Be involved in that. But the last part of that civic engagement is to be willing to show up and have a respectful debate. And why that's on my mind is because I went to Pierre this week again and spent 2 days there, and I watched contentious debates, and they will be contentious and continue to be, but they were carried out in a very civil way. The other thing that'll happen is if you go to Pierre, and it's not just saved for someone who thinks they're important, they're introducing classes of students that are attending from high schools here or there. They introduced me. They stand as the people's representatives, the people that we put in the office. They stand in respect for the people that put them in that office. So I would choose to steal their vernacular just a bit. I'd ask for a personal privilege. I would like us all to stand and welcome our people's representatives this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Schnorr. Great to have you here, and that's a great way to open our session today. So today we have 5 of our delegation. We're privileged to have them. Let's see, representing District 3, we have Senator Al Norstrup. Representative Brandy Schaefbauer, and Representative Carl Perry. Brandy, Carl, Al, yeah, over here. And we also have Senator Brian Breitling and Representative James Wagnes. Thank you for being here. We have a couple of other public servants we want to introduce to you as we get started this morning as well. We have County Commissioner Mike Weiss with us. Thank you for being here. We have Dr. Becky Guffin, our very capable school superintendent, with us. We have school board members Aaron Schultz, Dr. Alm, and Gail Bortnam, just walking in, nice timing. Dr. Bortnam, thank you for being with us. And I would be remiss if I didn't introduce another public servant, a student from Northern, is an intern for the Senate majority. Georgia is waving at us and smiling at us. We get to see Georgia every day at the Capitol as well. Thanks for being here today, Georgia. A woman after my own heart coming to Cracker Barrels on Saturday after a whole week of this. So thanks for having us. Our sponsors we get to thank today include AARP, the Aberdeen Development Corporation, Healthcare Plus Federal Credit Union, Helms & Associates, Mark Melhoff Insurance, Northern State University, Northwestern Energy, State Farm Insurance, Robert Steele, and the Borns Group. Thank you to all of them for having us. So what we're going to do today, we will start with a what's going on in Pierre intro. Each member of our delegation is asked to share about 5 minutes with us if they can. And we'll start that off with Senator Breitling.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming and spending the day with us here today. Senator Brian Breitling, District 23 from Miller. This is my last Cracker Barrel here this year, and I'm not running for re-election, so this is my last time in Aberdeen in this role. We do have another Cracker Barrel in Gettysburg this afternoon, and so that rounds out those visits for us. Scott Moore sends note that he is unable to be here today, sends his regrets. He is at a family service, and so life happens even during legislative session as well. And we've experienced that this year. 2 of our senators lost their father during session, had to take time off to do some of those family events. One of our senators also then was diagnosed with cancer and has made the decision to transition to hospice. So outside of the first or maybe second week, he hasn't been here all session either. And so again, my seatmate from my prior 2 years prior to this session had surgery this week as well and is starting to recover. And so there's a lot of things that go into session. We have a lot of things that we work on. It's a very narrow time, and it gets stressful, certainly this time of year, and then you throw all those personal events in, and challenges happen. We are in the last 2 weeks of session. I'm the Vice Chair of Senate Appropriations, so we are involved in all of the final negotiations on the spending bills. 2 weeks ago, we had revenue setting, and I think we talked about that here. During revenue setting, that's where we hear what the governor presented for her revenue estimates back in December, and then we made those adjustments over the last couple of months. Now we know what our threshold is and what that looks like. So that's the revenue setting. Once we do the revenue setting, then we know what our threshold is right now. And so this week, as of Friday, we had to get all of our spending bills out. And so that's basically the one-time spending bills. And so we got all of those done on Friday. There were some people that were happy. There was a lot of people that were not happy if there wasn't enough support on that spending bill to finish that specific project. I do want to say, though, some of the big winners, from a highlight standpoint, the water projects right now basically are still very much on board, very highly funded. They still have to go through the House and the Senate on the floor, but they're through appropriations, and there's a lot of those spending bills that are out there and that are successful. We do continue to put dollars away in the prison fund for the men's prison sometime down the road. Again, just as a reminder, that building is 140 years old. It's not safe for the employees that work there. And certainly there's better ways to provide that service, and so we are going to be working on that as well. We did put some money into finishing the women's prison in Pierre. They broke ground, not in Pierre, in Rapid City. They broke ground earlier this year. They had a good start, and so we finalized that building project as well. And then coming out of a few more things, cybersecurity for local governments. That was a priority, started early this year. That was passed at $7 million out of joint appropriations, and it's going to make its way through to the House and Senate floors here now as well. And then there's just a number of other items. I'm not going to go into all the details, but just to want to impress upon the work that goes into that. Those have to be out of the House of Origin by Tuesday. So there's going to be a lot of spending bills on the Senate and House floors on Tuesday, and then by next week, Monday, they have to be out of the other house as well. So again, there's still a few things that could change or fall away, but that's what the current plan is. Now appropriations goes back towards figuring out the 2025 budget, and we've got a lot of asks, more asks than we have dollars available. So that's going to be a stressful process this upcoming week as well, but we'll continue to work on that. In short, I spend almost all of my time working on state budget related items, but we do have other challenges that come up as well. Certainly 201, most of you are generally aware, that is one of the vast array of pipeline bills that came out this week. I did choose to support that. That is step 2 of a 5 or 6 step process. And so what it did do is it brought a few more people to the table. After it passed in the Senate, a number of folks got together and sat down and continued negotiations. And so there are amendments that are coming on that as well. So I just want everyone to know that's step 2 in a multi-step process. But we're going to get into a lot more of that here shortly as well. And so with that, again, thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Senator Breitling. Representative Wangsness?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Representative J.D. Wangsness, Miller, South Dakota. I'm not going to speak that long. I'm more interested in the questions that are going to be coming. Obviously, yes, I've been working pretty closely with all the pipeline bills and things like that. 201, there is an amendment coming on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Last week, HB 1219 didn't get on calendar. I voted against calendaring that, and I'll tell you why, because I know that question's going to come. I stood for the smokeout, and I was able to spend the weekend reviewing all the testimony in committee and talking to colleagues, talking to pros and cons of the issue. It was very well vetted in the committee. We trust our committee process. I couldn't see a path forward for it. And taking our time on something that's just not going to make it didn't make sense to me, so that's why I voted against that. As far as other things, Brian covered a lot of the appropriations things, which is the meat of what we're doing right now. But getting into these pipelines and things like that is going to be the next step. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Senator Northrup, do you want to go next?
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming. State Senator Al Northrup. When I got introduced, Julie demoted me to Representative Northrup, so just to set the record straight. We had Aberdeen Day this week, and we had Gail and her leadership team came down, and Becky Guffin and her senators came down, the Student Senate, and I made the comment on the floor as to they must not think they didn't bring a house, they don't have a house. That's Aberdeen Central, so they must not think that would be that important. So anyway, lots to talk about. We've got 500 balls in the air. Where do you start? There's 2 types of bills I'd talk about. One is where everybody gets along. And then there's other bills where nobody gets along practically. And I'll start out with the fun one. Representative Beal and his daughter, who's in the House, came with a bill that is going through without any opposition. But basically, it says that when you're hunting big game, you need to wear pink or orange. So pink is becoming apparently neighboring states have started to go down this route. I know Minnesota has. So you're going to start to see a lot of pink out hunting, but particularly on the big game. That's on one end of the spectrum where it's kind of fun and we all enjoy it. And they brought some pink hats down and pink vest and that type of thing. I also see Georgia out there. One of the things, I'll back up and tell the story. There's 105 legislators. With our families, there's about 500 of us. You know, everybody's got 4 or 5 people in their family, so there's 500 of us. So every legislative session we go through, we deal with heartache. People passing away, people getting sick, and this year has been no different than the other one. So one of the things Georgia did was, especially the senator from Rapid City, was a good friend of everybody in the building. And she gave us the opportunity to put together a video where we all got to talk. Everybody got to give a 1-minute message to Mike and wish him well and thank him for his friendship. So Georgia did that. Thank you. Without a doubt, on the opposite end of the pink, where everybody gets along, we got 201. 201 is a bill that basically moves the control away from the counties to the state, and that's a bad idea. And so it's going to continue to be controversial. We had a controversial bill where the optometrists wanted to expand their scope of practice, and they succeeded in getting that through, where they can now, if it gets signed by the governor, they can do more procedures than they could before. The ophthalmologists were opposed to it. Most people, myself included, up until recently, didn't know the difference between an ophthalmologist and an optometrist. Basically, optometrist is the person that gets you your eyeglasses, and ophthalmologist is a surgeon. So they're both dealing with the eye, but one deals more with deals 100 more with surgery than the other one does. One of the important bills in the legislature is 1244. It basically it comes to us from John Hanson, and what it does is it allows you to remove your name from a petition. One of the things I've seen over the years is people are gathering petitions, and you walk up to them or they walk up to you, and you ask them what the bill does or what the petition does, and 9 times out of 10 they give the wrong answer. They misrepresent what that does. And so if John Hanson's bill becomes law, what it will do is allow you, if you'd like to remove your name, you find out that the petition didn't do what they told you it did, then you can remove your name. And so that's a good bill. I fully support it. I'm the Senate Prime on that one. I was surprised. Senate Bill 13 was an important bill. I was surprised it got the House. Usually the Senate fixes things and the House breaks things, but on Senate Bill 13 it was the other way around. Senate Bill 13 basically would destroy the conventions, destroy the Democrat and Republican conventions, and so there's a lot of people. The last convention, I think, on the Republican side was 600 to 800 people, and so I didn't think that was a good idea to take most of the authority away from the convention. So anyway, other than that, one of the things we talk about is local control. Every year we talk about local control, and every year we violate it. In other words, we say things should be they should not be decided in Washington, D.C. More things should be decided in Pierre. More things than that should be decided in Brown County. More things than that should be decided in my living room. That's local control. And 201 violates that. Everybody that voted for it told you that they were in favor of local control until they weren't. So we just had a conversation with Superintendent Guffin. There's a bill out there that is going to tell Superintendent Guffin how to run her business, or run her school district, I should say, and that doesn't seem like a good idea since she knows more about it than we do. So with that, I'll stand by for more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Norstrup. Representative Perry.
Well, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that I'm really excited to be here. And the reason I'm excited to be here is because we are the people's house. We're here because the people put us there. And we appreciate you. We appreciate the fact that you put us there. I really appreciate the fact that Neil had everybody stand. That was kind of cool. We're not doing this for the high pay and the great working conditions. I just want to let you know that. But we are there because we like to be part of the action, and there's a lot of action going on. I'm not going to hit on everything that these guys have already covered, but if we have any really tough questions about finance, we're going to go to Brett Lane. If we have other tough questions, we always give the tough questions to Al. Brandy and I will be happy to handle the easy questions, and then Wangsness, he's our majority whip, so we'll give him the responsibility of handling the both of us. Anyway, we have lots of things going on, but the House of Representatives is committed to funding new prison infrastructure, helping counties and cities with cybersecurity needs, funding technical school equipment, shoring up necessary infrastructure projects from dams to state fair facilities. We're working on a lot of different things. As far as myself, I'm working on some things. I had a bill in there to have the legislators learn more about the Constitution. That failed, and it should not have failed because we need to know more about it, because we'll stand here and we'll swear an oath to it, and we'll stand here and tell you that that's not constitutional. And if we check the Constitution, sometimes the things that we say aren't really are, and the things that we say are really aren't. So I think we could use a little bit more there. I had that paraplegic hunter bill. We ended up taking the bill off, and we got that done by rule, and so a paraplegic hunter now can take his wheelchair and go hunting on government land. The Board of Regents, we have some really interesting things going with them. The no paid petitioners was an idea to keep people from being petitioners from other states and coming in and being paid to petition our people in like Sioux Falls or Rapid City and maybe even in Aberdeen. But that was kind of nixed by a few people because of the fact that it would be unconstitutional and unable to enforce. But we had some other things with eminent domain 1203 that did pass. 1185 did pass, and that was on surveys. 1186 did pass, and that was on easement terms and given $1 a linear foot for the farmers. And when you think about that, $1 today, and they may not have the pipe laid for 4 years, so they don't get started to get paid until after the actual product is going through the pipe. So in 4 years from now, is $1 still worth $1? Or is $1 worth 75 cents? Or is $1 worth 50 cents? So I will tell you this, that most of the farmers weren't doing hand flips on this one, but it did pass. And I remember some of the things that we did pass in the past that were really important. Vaping. We made it so that kids and people could not buy vaping products unless they were 21. Kratom. Most people don't know what it is, but it kills people. But they can't get it till they're 21. After they're 21, they can kill themselves if they want. And then the other one is the Delta products. We have that at 21 also. And the Delta products are the synthetic drugs. And synthetic drugs, they say, well, it's not marijuana. Well, no, but it's the same thing, only different. You know, if you call it a banana, it's still marijuana. So anyway, we got a lot of different things like that. I did have a bill that I will tell you about, and then I'll leave you alone. And that is a bill that was called 1229. This is where the city and Mike and the county and the municipal league and the Department of Transportation all got in a big circle and started singing Kumbaya and said, you know what, we can solve some problems. They were having problems with roads in different areas where on one side of the road it was city, on the other side of the road it was county, and one side of the road it was township, and on the other side it was something different. And there was different things that were happening in the state, and especially in Aberdeen, and we got that fixed, and we got that bill through, and it went on consent with us in the House, and I pulled it off of consent because we made a mistake. And then we got it fixed, got it approved, got it over to the Senate, and went on consent there also. So the next thing that happens is it goes to the governor. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And then the final thing is I have information for you. If you're from any county, including Aberdeen, including Brown County this last year from the retirement laws had 1,392 recipients of benefits from the state, and that was $31,286,000. So if you take $31 million and you multiply that times 7, because money multiplies 7 times in a community with economic impact, that's about $250 million impact that we have from our senior citizens and from the people that are retired from the city, the state, and the different programs that are part of the South Dakota retirement system. Is that a good deal? $250 million. Just think if we didn't have that, where we would be. So thank you very much, and I will stand by for questions. I'm excited to hear from you, and when we talk about 201, I can tell you my views on it, but I'm not going to tell you now. It's going to be a secret.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Now, Representative Schaefbauer.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. Just a little housekeeping right here with a couple of little squawks back in the corner back there is my grandson, Liam. So I'm so excited that he gets to hang out with me for the weekend and listen to me probably say a whole bunch of nonsense. So, but the other exciting thing that happened specifically to me during this legislative session, I got a new seatmate. So my seatmate was vacated because Jess Olson from Rapid City resigned with possible conflict of interest before the Supreme Court made their decision. So the desk beside me has been vacant up until just this week, and so I have another representative from the Rapid City area, and she is pretty fun to sit by, and she now only has 9 days left to sit by me, but her total time was 17 days. So that was just kind of a fun little fact. I was going to start with the few committees that I was on, but I think I'm going to go with a couple other little fun little things that we get to do in the legislature. And one of them, we get letters from constituents, we get prayer cards, but I did get a letter from a little student from Madison, and the Madison fourth grade class came to visit the Capitol this past week, and the name was Brecken, so I just kind of assumed a little boy. Well, this little girl kept waving at me, and I was waving at her, and I thought, whoever Brecken is, I'm hoping to introduce him. And I say Brecken's name, and this little girl stands up and waves, and I thought, that was so fun that, she was there to see me, and she was so honored that I actually gave her a little shout out on the House floor. So, I would encourage any teachers to have their students write their legislators, probably not nastygrams, but, nice little notes, because it really does make our day. The other fun thing is, we have, I don't know how many total pages we get throughout the session, but it is so great to get to know the kids from around our state, what they are planning to do, because most of these kids are juniors and seniors, what they're planning to do in their next stages of life, go to college, and some of the vast interests that we are told, because we always have them introduce themselves in committee, and what they are planning on doing with their lives it's really incredible. So I always think that's fun. And this year we had 5 pages from last year come, and it was great to get to know them again and just ask how things are going and what their future holds for them. Another this is a bill, and it was a feral cat bill, kind of a little carve out for the city of Sioux Falls, but during the presentation of the bill on the House floor, there was some, perfect language and no emergency clause. So we got to have a little fun with a bill that usually we have to, take things pretty serious with all of our bills that we have. But anyway, I'm on health and I'm on transportation. And in health, we, of course, saw some more medical marijuana stuff. We got to make sure we have our program, a legit program. Hopefully we are getting this down so next year we won't have too many of these bills. Transportation, lots of license plates this year. For any retired firefighter, we did vote to make sure that you guys could have a license plate. And then we started to put into statute provision for drones. It's a starting point, and of course we have to keep building on this legislation. It kind of seems like that's what we're doing with a lot of bills. We start and then we build. So again, thank you for coming, and I am looking forward to answering questions.
Thank you, Representative Schaefbauer. Now, the comments of our delegation remind me that we also have the Warner students with us today. Why don't you stand and let us say hi to you this morning, and thank you for coming. Warner. Thanks for coming. So now we're going to the other part of the program where we get to hear your questions and direct them to our delegation. And we have Allison, more Northern talent, helping us this morning. Allison's helping us with the microphone. She's going to be in the back of the room if you want to come to her. And if you can't come to her, signal us, and she will be happy to come to you as well. This is also a good reminder for those who are watching this event live on Dakota Broadcasting. Thank you very much, Dakota Broadcasting. You can text a question to 605-216-2045. 605-216-2045, and we will try to ask it for you. I believe in my pocket there is one such question at this moment. We do ask all of us to make our questions to the point, and so that we can maximize the use of our time this morning. So we're going to start then with the one that's in my pocket. Jeremy Shortsleeve asks the question, wants to know why South Dakota is afraid to buck the trend and stop having us change the clocks twice a year. It doesn't save anything and is archaic. We don't use candles or lamps any longer. Anybody want to respond to the daylight savings time question?
Easiest question today. So there was a bill earlier this year on daylight savings time, and it's come up over the years. And yeah, there's an argument to be made, why are we changing it and stuff. But this year's bill kind of tweaked how they were doing it. Without conflicting with federal law, you've got to either be all-time daylight savings time, if I'm saying that correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, or you can't be full-time the other way. Well, what that would do is our kids would be going to school in the dark and all that kind of stuff. So it is a safety issue if you're full-time one way or the other. So the bill this year, it changed our time zone, which was really confusing, actually. But, I mean, essentially your time would just stay the way it is. And, well, as a farmer, I'm up at the dawn and down at the dusk, so it didn't really matter much to me, but it didn't pass. So.
Anybody else want to add to that? Okay, thank you very much. Who has the next question? Students are invited to ask questions too, by the way. Introduce yourself and
Good
state
morning.
your question.
I'm Bob Schatz, and I'm a District 1 voter, so I wish some of our District 1 guys were here. But anyway, my question would be for Senator Breitling. You alluded to the penitentiary system upgrades or changes. A recent South Dakota Searchlight article said they expect the men's penitentiary to be $700 million when it's done. Originally, that was $335. 2 years ago, $335 million. How much of that $700 million is set aside already? And then how much additional is it going to cost taxpayers for the daily operation of that?
Thank you for the question.
So, yes, you're right that the latest budget projection for the building is to be $706 million. That is, again, still preliminary. So the bill that we are passing this year will hire an architect, and then we'll figure that out. So we'll next year we'll know what the exact dollar amount is. As of right now, the estimate is $706 million. As of today, we have $330 million, give or take, in savings. This year's legislative session, we're putting in an additional 200 and some, and I think when it's all said and done, we're supposed to have right around $550 million in savings, assuming everything continues over the next couple of weeks where it's projected today. So that would leave around $150 million over the course of the next year or 4 years, depending on how long construction takes and things like that. As far as ongoing funding, I can't tell you what the operations cost is. Again, we've got operations built into the existing prison system now. I'm sure there will be some tweaks. There's going to be some staffing changes based on efficiencies. There's going to be different levels of service. They're adding addiction training. They're adding mental health components to this. So the whole process will be a little bit different than what we have for corrections today. But I can't tell you exactly what the final operations number is after it's built. Because, again, we're talking 4, 5, 6 years before that happens.
Anyone want to add anything? Thank you, Senator. Who has the next question?
My name is Dennis Hoyle. I'm from Roscoe. as I understand it, there's Chinese ownership in this pipeline. And I would like, this question's for any or all of you who knows the answer, is that true? And to what extent is China going to own it? And why would we, if we're not going to allow China to buy farmland, why are we going to use eminent domain to give them access to the pipeline?
Anybody know the answer to that question?
I can take a first step. I don't know who's all invested in the pipeline. Really, honestly, I don't know. We know that John Deere, we know that there's a number of other large ag investment companies that are invested in that. There's obviously a whole bunch of investment funds or whatever that are invested in the pipeline as well. What component of that is owned by China? I can't answer that. I don't know.
Other additions? Okay, thank you. Next question. Who's got the next question?
Well, it's unfortunate that you weren't, well, Mike Clipful, McPherson County, by the way. And it was unfortunate that no one on the panel can actually answer that question. We do know that China is part owner in that pipeline, and they will be owning for farmland. So, but that's not what my question is, even though that's a significant question to ask. I'm here in regards to SB 201, because right now that is the bill that is going to affect us the most. If you live in a county or in a township, 201 will remove any authority of your county or township to set any sort of setbacks for anything. Hog operations, farming operations, feeding operations, solar panels, wind towers. And it was specifically written to give Summit a way through the pipeline when they had a way through without that bill. So my question is, whoever voted, and our good Senator Brightland did vote for 201, would you like to explain to us why and how that's a good thing for the state of South Dakota?
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Mike. We've obviously visited about this topic a lot. There are a lot of folks that support your decision as well. There's a lot of other folks that you were certainly there on Tuesday. You saw all the different producers that were there as well that had a different vision of that bill as well. So long story short, this bill started as a draft months and months ago. And in a lot of meetings that we were at, I said that I was going to be opposed to that. It has been modified and gotten to this point. And so when I look at this bill, there are a number of landowners' rights benefits that are added in there. Counties can impose a surcharge of $1 per linear foot for safety. Counties can... the pipeline facility is liable for drain tile installation. Pipeline facility is liable for damages or ruptures. Pipeline facility has to release the ag mitigation plan, the disbursement model. Local land agents need to be local to South Dakota. The only thing in there basically is it restates the federal law. And I will disagree with you that it takes away all setbacks. It takes away setbacks related to pipelines, which are in federal law. So that's my interpretation. I'm not a lawyer. That's my interpretation. In addition, this is step 2 of a 5-step process. So I know that as soon as this happened, some folks sat down, looked at it before it hits the House committee. There's already modifications and a proposed amendment on that as well. So there's going to continue, the process will continue to refine. And so by passing it, did we get the right people to the table? I'm not sure. But doing nothing doesn't help anybody. Doing nothing, it doesn't set us back into 1950. We have to look for tomorrow, and I think that these, the things that this puts in for safety of our residents is better off than not doing anything.
I'll continue along those lines. So I had not ever made a commitment one way or another on 201 because I wanted to see how it was going to look when it finally got over to the House. So the bill that passed out, I'm concerned a little bit about Section 7. It's a little aggressive there. Now, the proposed amendment that we'll be hearing about on Monday strikes Section 7. And it adds some stuff back. It basically turns it back to the PUC to, when they're in their permitting process, they design, the PUC permit will supersede municipal land use, zoning, et cetera, if it is deemed unreasonably restrictive or is preempted by federal law. And there are court cases out there, we know that, some of them are still being appealed and things like that, but it's pretty clear in the case law that so far that the federal court, they're gonna override a lot of these zonings, and it's gonna happen. So this pipeline, and this is another reason, the eminent domain part of it, there's just no political will to end that, and it won't stand up to scrutiny in courts if we did outlaw it. So it's just not, eminent domain, getting rid of it is not an option. So we've got to figure out a way to get the best we can for everybody and find a route for this. This bill does offer a lot of benefits for landowners that in any other year we would never even come close to getting these kind of benefits for property rights. So so this pipeline is, it's probably going to get routed and permitted either through the courts or through us. And I'd rather have us do that, because then you lose all your local control if the courts take it and they supersede us. So as of right now, if that amendment goes on there, I'm much more supportive of 201, and it turns it back to the PUC, and then they through their rulemaking and things like that. So that's kind of the nutshell of it. If there's more questions on it, I'd be happy to answer.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Two things. First, to answer the previous question, I do have a little bit of information, and that is that foreign investments for U.S. tax credits, there is foreign investments and ties to foreign companies in Summit, including a South Korean company, SKEA&S, which is related to SK Holdings, and it's a company fined over $70 million for defrauding U.S. military contracts. The Department of Justice shows SK Holding pleading guilty in 2018 against, and again in 2020, to government fraud. Another case was listed as a settlement, which another is still pending. Navigator is funded by BlackRock, which has significant foreign ownership. And I know that Navigator isn't going now, but they're all in the same family. And as far as the other part, on 201, at this time, I will not be a proponent of 201. I'm sitting there in the mode of protecting our families, preserving our future, protecting our constitutional rights, stopping eminent domain for private gain, and abuse from, things that are happening. And I think the biggest thing for me is the fear of safety for our South Dakota citizens. And we have to get to the point where we sit here and say, what are we supposed to be doing? For Pete's sakes, we have our city council, we have our Brown County Commission, and then we have, our churches and our school boards and all that. And then we get up to the South Dakota legislature. They don't work for us. We should not make every single rule that we like. We should be looking at what is best for you. And at this point, I'm not convinced that 201 is best for you. I'm not convinced that the amendment is good for you. And when we have these meetings like they're talking about, they'll have a meeting like that, but everybody's not invited. And if everyone's not invited, how do you know what they're going to be bringing to you? I'm on the Commerce and Energy Committee. I'm going to be one of the ones that are listening to this argument on Monday. And nobody has given me the amendment. I've got the amendment from another way, but I should have got the amendment from somebody that was close to the amendment, not from somebody who got it from somebody who got it from somebody. And just so that you know, we need to do the right thing. And at this time, I can't see 201 being the right thing. Now, on Monday at 10 o'clock, tune in because it'll be exciting. And we're moving into the big room, which is 414. And the reason we're moving to that big room is they're not moving there because they think nobody will be interested. They're thinking everybody's going to be interested. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your questions and especially appreciate the questions that you have. And one of the things you'll notice is we don't always agree. But I will say we always agree on taking care of the people here in the District 1, District 3, and District 23. And if we don't do that, then we shouldn't be in state politics. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Well, and Carl said it, well, we do disagree, but we disagree respectfully, and so we'll continue to do that. Let me tell you where the real action is. The real action is on Senate Bill 201 is the amendment, and I'll explain that. South Dakota's got a pretty good procedure, checks and balances. If a bill is to go through the legislature and the people disagree with it, the people can go out and get signatures and refer it to the vote of the people. So that gives power to the people to overturn bad decisions on the legislature's part. I think I can predict the future, and I'll take you down the path. Here's the rules the real issue is, can it be referred to the people? Can the people weigh in on this? Can the people make the decision? Can the people overrule the legislature if we make a bad decision? And the rules of the game is this. If a bill goes into effect July 1, there's time to refer it to the people. If it goes into effect immediately, there is no ability for the people to have an election. That's where the real action is on this bill, is will the people be able to make a decision? Or will it be run through in a process that takes that ability away from the people? And here's what it is. If a bill has been amended, then the House has got one version and the Senate's got another version. When that happens, we have what's called a conference committee. I'll back up for a second. There was an emergency clause in this bill when it came to me, and it failed to get the 2/3. The Senate said you should not have an emergency. According to the rules, you got to get to 2/3. The Senate said we're not at 2/3. Therefore, it will go into effect July 1, not immediately. So when it goes to the House, they're going to amend it. And the landowners I don't care what they amend it to. They can amend it to every landowner gets $10 million. The landowner should oppose the amendment. The reason they should oppose the amendment is the door to taking away the vote of the people by petition. So if it gets amended on the House side, it'll end up in conference committee, and then in the conference committee they get 6 people, 3 House members, 3 Senate people, appointed by the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem, and they'll come back with a report as to what they've agreed upon. Well, my prediction is it will come out of that with a emergency clause, which is code word for the people can't decide. The neat thing about it doing it that way, the rules change. It only takes a 50% vote. So we're going to do something that should take a 2/3 vote by using a 50% vote, and that's going to be overturning the ability of the people to make a decision. That's what probably the worst thing I'm going to see in my entire career is it'll come out of that committee and it'll pass to the emergency clause with a 50% vote.
I guess since everybody has said something, I will too. As of how 201 is right now, whether it has an amendment, whether it doesn't have an amendment, I am opposed absolutely 100% to the state overtaking the county power away from the counties. And a couple little points I wanted to make about the one previous question about the Chinese investment. Because I have all my notes and I have them in paper and on my phone, so I just want to make sure I have the right numbers here. The Silk Road Fund, which is financed by the Chinese government, is the primary investor in TPG Rise Climate Fund, and they have a $300 million investment in Summit. So yes, there is definitely Chinese there's a huge Chinese investment in Summit, so I'm not sure how we can't say that they wouldn't be owning land when easements are signed. And PHMSA, and I stated this at the last Cracker Barrel, in September of 23, PHMSA sent a letter, and PHMSA is the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. They are the entity that regulates I gotta make sure I say this right, interstate pipelines. And they say that the regulation of pipelines is at the county level. So we need to make sure that we protect our counties, we protect local control, and definitely 201, however it is written, amended or not, will definitely take away from that. And I am all about keeping our control with the counties who know their constituents and the residents the best. Thank you.
And just for clarity, just so everyone's, we're on the final 2 weeks of session. Everyone is stressed, highly stressed. You can tell by the dialogue that we have up here today. Some of the times, most of the time, everything that we say, we say with confidence and knowledge. Every now and again, something is shared that isn't completely accurate, and there's some fear development that happens as a result. Just for clarity on Senator Northrup's comments, and it's not that I'm trying to challenge you, Senator, if an emergency clause, this is in the rule book, if an emergency clause is added in conference committee, the vote goes back to the final disposition vote requirement for the passage of that bill. So if an emergency clause is added, it doesn't reduce it down to 50%. It takes it back up to 2/3 again as well. So again, try to stay consistent. There's a lot of rumors going around. There's a lot of misrepresentation that's going around. We are trying to do the best thing for the state of South Dakota. All of us have different versions of what's best for South Dakota, but I just want to keep the expectations of truth and accuracy in our discussions.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Alm has the next question. He was in line before you were.
Well, good morning, legislators. I'm Dwayne Alm from the Aberdeen School Board. My question refers to House Bill 1162, which would set school board elections to be held at the June primary election or the November general election. I know this bill is going to be heard in the Senate State Affairs, I believe, on Tuesday. I would like to hear your comments on this bill and what position that you might be taking. And thank you for taking my question.
Very good. House Bill 1162, you said?
Yeah, 1162, HB 1162.
Anyone want to weigh in on 1162?
So on 1162, the House passed it to head over to the Senate. Yeas 40, nays 29, and I do believe I voted to a yes. Let me make sure. All my votes, I never know if I'm correct or not, but yes, I did vote it because Aberdeen, according to what I was already told in the information I was given, already has the election. So I thought, you know, if it's the way it is now, I'm okay with it, and if it changes, I'm okay with it too. So I guess it's up to the Senate.
Representative Wangsness.
I'll add in, I did also vote in support of that in some of our smaller communities and stuff. The turnout for school board elections is just abysmal. So if you tie that in with your primary or general election, you're going to get a better turnout and hope, you know, and get a better product from your voters.
Carl?
Just so you know, we don't all say yay. I said nay. The reason I said nay is I visited with the school superintendent, and I said, is this something we want to move forward with? And I got the information that probably don't want to move forward with it. So I went nay.
Other questions? Other comments about that? Okay, who has the next question?
Doug Somke, District 1, also president of South Dakota Farmers Union, who has 19,000 members who have been standing up and fighting for landowners and against eminent domain use by private gain companies as Summit Carbon Solutions.
What's your question?
And Julie, let me point out how Julie Johnson just shut me down after we discussed about going first or last or who was going to go first. Right, just remember, she's a lobbyist for Summit Carbon Solutions.
No, I'm not. Get it right.
So, well,
Okay,
let's.
what's your
First of all, I want to thank Reverend Perry and Bishop Northrup for the words you said earlier. You took a lot of them right out of my mouth, and I hope that the rest on the other side of this table start listening to your constituents as these three have, and start doing what they want. Because I'm going to tell you right now, South Dakota Farmers Union created a group called South Dakotans First. We've got others that have joined us. I'm getting there, Julie. Hang on. And we have a survey that we put out. And if you want to look at it, go to southdakotasfirst.com, and you will see that eminent domain is a huge issue. And no one wants to kill eminent domain. That was never anyone's testimony. The idea was to keep it from being used by private gain. And I did propose a amendment to Senator Northrup and to Senator Roll about how we could use the laws that we use for railroads, also for the use of private and individuals and state and county crossings.
What's your question?
My question is, how come the likes of South Dakota Farmers Union haven't been in the room when these bills were amended? This bill that Representative Perry just talked about that he should have had immediately because he's on the committee, we didn't even get in the discussion. We stand for a lot of people. We were not in the room. And if you want to come up with a bill that is, commendable for everyone, that, works for everyone, maybe you want to talk to everyone, not just Summit Carbon Solutions.
The meeting I had, Summit Carbon Solutions was not in the room. There was a lot of people not in the room. It was legislators trying to figure out a pathway forward. So it's, this idea that we're having secret meetings and things like that, no, we're doing what we just normally do. So you weren't the only one not there. There was a lot of people not very happy about the meeting, and I'm getting that more and more. But we're just trying to find the best way. Counties were in a meeting because counties is who was really concerned about this bill. And I think we came up with the amendment hasn't been dropped yet. This is conversation. This was an idea. And it puts it back to the PUC. The counties have all the authority they want to do all the setbacks they want. It just can't violate federal law. It can't be over restrictive. That's it.
Anyone else want to?
That being said, sir, do you understand 45Q? Yes. Have you researched 45Q? Do you understand the corruption, the fraud, the loopholes in that law? If you do, why would you support it? Are you truly a Republican? Because that's
Okay.
You're really out of line.
Yeah.
Yes, you are out of line. Because you said talk to constituents. I do talk to constituents. Guess what? There's a lot of people that support this idea for the corn industry, for soybeans, for a lot of different things, because there's a lot of stuff in the future. I've got over 1,000 letters on my desk of people in support of this project. And you disagree. Well, pull your head out of the sand, because it's not all or nothing. There's people on both sides of this. And we're trying to do the best for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your responses. Is there another topic? Who else has a topic to add today? Is this a pipeline question?
It is, because it's actually pretty important. I'm Theodore Zimmer, Glenham, South Dakota, District. I live in District 23, so this is a question for the representatives of District 23. Where do you draw the line of personal property rights and eminent domain? What's stopping me from starting a private company, getting government funding to set up shop on your land, building illegal immigrant housing for the sake of human rights. I just want to know, where's your line? What's your guys' definition?
Okay. Who has the next question? Other topics? They say there's no answer to that question. Promise?
Yes, promise. I'm big into personal rights. I just want to know why someone at 17 years old who can join the Army with parents' permission and 18, why can't they vape? I just want to know that. Like, why can they go out and die in the fields, but they can't enjoy a beer?
Why can't they drink? Is that your question?
No, why can't they vape?
Vape.
I'll take a stab at that one. If we're going to say 18 is the age of majority, that should be the age to be able to drink, smoke, do whatever you want to do. Society has made these rules, and I don't necessarily agree with them. That might make me a little more libertarian. But yeah, if you can go die for your country, I think you should be able to have a beer.
Representative Perry.
That's a really good answer, and that's a really good question. 4 years ago, I actually had a death threat due to vaping, all right? And not because I was vaping, but because I was on the other side of an issue. But long story short, we had the general for the National Guard and a couple other people that are in the service that said they would rather have their military in good shape, and they would rather not have them vaping, and they would rather just comply with the age of 21. They said that officially they're not going to come out saying that they're for or against anything, but what they would prefer is that it would be at 21. So that's the reason. They think it's okay. And as far as you can go and fight at 18, that's true. But let's not have you smoking and drinking and stuff like that, and we'll keep you in good shape so that you don't get killed. Thank you.
Thank you, Teddy, for your service as a Army sniper. I appreciate that. The truth of all this, it could be our personal opinion, whether, hey, I'm okay with 18. Yeah, you're going off to fight for your country. You deserve a beer, if not more. The reason why we can't have anyone below 21 smoke, vape, drink, whatever, is because we will not get some federal dollars, like for our highway funds. Being on transportation, boy, am I learning a lot about if we pass this law or we don't pass that law, we won't get federal highway dollars. And we do need to, everybody likes good roads, right? So we do need to adhere to federal standards so we can continue to have good roads for the state of South Dakota. But other than that, hey, I'm with you. Have a beer if you're going to go out and fight for our country.
Thank you, Brandy. We live in a representative democracy, which means you vote for us, we go up here, we do our best to represent you. We don't necessarily make a lot of friends doing what we're doing. So one of the things that I would refer to us as the adults in the room. We hopefully have good judgment and can decide issues, which is what we're there for. But some of the issues that we've decided, and sometimes we decide 16 is the age you can do something. Sometimes we decide 18 is the age you can do something. Sometimes we decide 21 is the age. I'll back up a second. The scientists say that the brain development is pretty well developed at age 26. So we're kind of opposed to 14-year-olds making some decisions. Some of the decisions that we make, and you can, and I'll get back to the vaping, is what age can you get married at? I believe that was 16 with parental permission. So we debated that issue, and we came up with that as what I refer to as an adult decision. We think it's bad for people to get married at age 13. Beer is another issue. Currently, we haven't debated that in 30 years for Brandy's reason, because they were going to take away our federal funding. Tattoos, what age can you get a tattoo in? What age can you get a sex change in? I mean, that's our job to make those decisions. The reason we typically put, Carl, is vaping 18 or 21? The reason vaping is 21 is because it's a bad decision. It's a bad decision. And so the reason it's a bad decision is it will wreck your health. And so, and I don't mean to be offensive, but I probably will be. If you can't make a good decision, we'll make it for you. So, thank you.
I want to add just one thing to that, Julie. And part of this was because the Northeastern Principal Association had a meeting over in Watertown 5 years ago, and I asked them, what are the two biggest issues you have? One of them was vaping, and the other one was mental health. And we've done some things for mental health now where we have telehealth, and we could, if it's a Tuesday and you're having a severe problem before, it might be the next Wednesday or the next Monday before somebody would be there to see you. But this way, at least they can talk to somebody. Telehealth has really helped on that. But on vaping, the problem with vaping with 18-year-olds, a lot of 18-year-olds could go to high school. And Becky Guffin can tell you that that's a problem because they can legally have vaping products on them in the way it was before. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West. You could do whatever you want. But we changed it to 21. This way the schools could actually go to you and say, you can't have that product because it's against the law. And so they have some teeth to put into their administration to help keep vaping away from the schools. I don't think we solved all the issues. I don't know if you'd believe this, but there might be somebody under 18 that drinks beer. There might be somebody under 18 that smokes, and there might be somebody under 18 that's doing marijuana, and there might be somebody under 18 that's still doing vaping. But there has to be a point where you just say, this is the number. And that's a really good question you had. You got a lot of good discussion going. You get the Best Discussion of the Day award. Thank you.
Thank you. We got another question through our Dakota Broadcasting Connection today. Now that Crossover Day has passed, tell us about bills that passed your chambers that are most beneficial for the districts you serve and where you stand on those at this time. You mind, does that make sense? Bills that have passed your chamber, most beneficial for your district, I think is the question. Anybody have one they want to mention right off the top? They're all looking at their notes, if you're wondering. Yeah, Senator Norstrop.
Well, last year the answer was Lincoln Hall. Last year the answer was Lincoln Hall. This year Richmond Dam is very important. So, it's a high hazard dam, and I think it's very important.
I got a couple simple ones. Julie's familiar with one, HB 1116 that I carried that added into the consumer protection laws, solicitation by charitable organizations, fraudulent solicitation. So like robocalls calling you about your fraternal order of police or things like that that are not being fully forthcoming. Now that's on our books that they can be investigated and prosecuted. Second one was for the newspapers. We got that was SB 153. It put it back to the legislator that we will be the ones determining the fees for our publications, for the legals and things like that we see every month, with an increase annually at 2% or inflation, whichever is lower. Those are two nice, helpful bills that'll help our district.
Thank you. Senator, do you want to add anything there?
I would echo Representative Wangsness. We, in District 23, we agreed to be prime sponsors on the newspaper bill, and so the Newspaper Association came to actually both of us this summer when we were at an event and said they would like this update being taken care of, and so we worked with the Bureau of Administration to get that update done. They had supported it. The Newspaper Association supported it, and of course in District 23 is extremely rural. We've got 13 newspapers in our district, and so all of them supported that. So we got that passed. I think it's still on the House side right now. It passed last week as well. Okay, good. Other than that, I can't really say I've got a lot of other policy bills. Again, I spend all of my time in appropriations. But the comment about Richmond Lake Dam, that was very important to us. I had a couple of other bills a county jail funding proposal for Walworth County. I didn't get that one through. And then yesterday, Hidden Wood Lake bill died, and so we couldn't get that one through. But again, there's a lot of focus on a lot of different bills. I think the biggest one in our area, frankly, is the water bill, getting the $120 million into the State Water Board. It'll help Webb Water, it'll help BDM Water Project, it'll help a number of other water projects throughout the state as well.
Thank you. Anything you want to add? Want to add? They're good? Okay. I think we have another question.
Good morning, Mike Bockerny with the Aberdeen Development Corporation. I want to go back to water, Senator Breitling. Thanks for mentioning that. So my question, since you just mentioned it, got simplified. Can we get the bill passed in both houses as is with the $130 million in it, because that would significantly benefit all of Northeast South Dakota? Thank you.
So one of the benefits of being on the leadership and appropriations, we also get to be in the joint leadership conversations as well. And so every week we have a meeting with House leadership, Senate leadership, and I get to join in that conversation. These water bills that we are talking about, this is what passed as priorities for the Senate, priorities for the House, and so we're able to get that through. So we don't anticipate, again, every day is a new day, and just hearing our conversations today, every day is a new day. But as of, 2-3 days ago, these were a priority in both the House and the Senate, so we expect these to get passed.
Thank you. Who has another question? Go ahead. Identify yourself.
Good morning. Bob Swisher. I farm northeast of here, about 25 miles, and I got a couple questions. Why isn't there no environmental impact study on this that I could see or anybody's seen? And if it's there, sorry for the question, but literally, if I want to build a 1,000-head feedlot, I got to go to the NCRS and ask them, can I build this? And then they give you a bunch of regulations. I talked to a person the other day who was from the emergency management system, and I've known Scott Might since he was a little boy, and she told me that Summit Carbon told them all they have to do is show up if there's an explosion out at the Groton plant. They have to just show up check which way the wind's from, and then show up and take care of it. All that is hogwash.
Your question?
And I want to know, is there a plan for Brown County when that pipe eventually will rupture and kill everybody in Aberdeen or whatever direction the wind is coming from? Is there a plan? I don't want to see my grandchildren perish by something you people should have stopped a long time ago.
Okay,
and then take away the rights of the county or from the county commissions. These people all need their voices. Anything the state gives us is a bunch of hogwash. That's my question. What's the plan?
To address the EPA, so back in 2017, President Trump had an executive order, and off the top of my head, I am not sure what I think it is Executive Order 13783. He wanted pipelines, and I'm talking oil pipelines, natural gas pipelines, to get going, and he did not want the EPA and the environmentalists to stop these pipelines from get going so we can get fuel and gasoline to the people of America, so we can lower some gas prices. Well, that also included this type of a pipelines. It was just a broad range of pipelines. So when President Biden got into office, he went back and overrid all those executive orders. So back this summer, and I don't have it with me, I wrote a letter to the PUC to put on the docket for both Navigator and Summit that I am requesting an environmental impact study done. Whoever knows me here, I am not a tree hugger. This was the last letter I ever thought I would write, but I did because I thought this will give us time. And why are we not requiring an environmental impact study for this specific pipeline? Well, as I'm doing my research, I find President Trump's executive order, Biden's, taking away those executive orders, and then getting a call from a lawyer at the PUC saying that because of President Trump's executive order, we do not need this environmental impact study. Well, if we look back at the states that were and are affected by these pipelines, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Illinois, with the Navigator and Wolf one, the two states that required EPA letter or environmental impact studies were Minnesota and Illinois. Well, they're blue states. They are having the environmentalists going crazy with putting these pipelines in the ground. So they are stopping pipelines, for 4 or 5 years until these studies get done. But because we are a red state, we don't need to do that. So that's just some of the research that I was doing with as I was writing these letters. And I was going through Summit's environmental write-ups and stuff. And, they got down to the flower that might be affected, the little insect that might be affected. And I'm like, all these virgin grasses that this pipeline is going to go through, there are species that will be affected. And so why are we not doing this environmental impact study? So, hey, if it's going to put some halting on this pipeline, I'm all for it, even though, hey, I'm the first to say I am not a tree hugger or an environmentalist. But that's what I know. Things could have changed since I wrote that letter. I do believe I had 2 or 3 senators sign on to that letter and probably 20 representatives that, just said we need to do what we need to do for the state of South Dakota so that we can make sure our grasses, our natural habitat, are not affected by something that, in a lot of people's opinion, is nonsense.
Anybody else?
Pipeline. It's hard to believe we're going to talk about that, but it's a great topic. And PHMSA report from 5/26/22, the current regulations did not protect citizens. And the new and updated PHMSA regulations aren't due until the fall of this year, 2024. So every now and then people will say, this is what PHMSA says. PHMSA hasn't said anything yet. They're going to say it later this year. So the other thing that we can say is a 12.5-inch pipe rupturing can travel 4.47 miles from the center. That would be if we have a 12.5-inch pipe. We're going to have a 24-inch pipe, and some people have said it could be as high as 30. So these numbers will be really higher than what they're saying here. We had Representative Mills talk on the floor, and his talk was about the rupture of the pipeline down in Mississippi. And it went for a big enough area where 45 people ended up being hospitalized. And I'm not picking on the people, but Carbon Summit Solutions, what they're saying is, well, nobody died. Well, if 45 people go to the hospital, that's not a real good thing, especially if they have to go in for intensive care. And then the other part of that is all the animals in a 6-mile area died. So all the birds, all the rabbits, all the other things that live in that area died. So it is untested. And your question about how come we don't have more regulation and more information and more, I don't know if environmental study is the word that I'd want to use here. We should have more information going out to the public because this is a project that will affect our public. This is not just a farmer project. This is not just a farmer issue. And we're getting it so that it's the landowner against carbon. And it's really not just that issue. This is one of those things where if we had a rupture out by in Aberdeen where the ethanol plant is, it would go for, let's say 4 miles. Well, that's about a half a mile out of town. and half a mile the other way is Lincoln Elementary School. Well, maybe it won't happen when school's going on, but if it did happen when school was going on, is this something we want to have happen? Now, I'm not going to say that there would be an explosion at that spot, but over by Oneida, they had a real problem with their ethanol plant, all right? So do problems occur? Yes. What I'm interested in, I will go on record saying I'm interested in helping the farmers, but I'm also interested in making sure that the people are protected. And as long as we can sit here when we're all done saying the people are protected, we're doing the right thing, and our landowners' property rights are not being affected. If somebody wants to sign an easement and have this pipeline, I am okay with that. More power to you. But if I have the land, let's say I'm Mark Lapke and it's my land they're going to go across, and I don't want to have them go on my land because I have 6 generations of my family there, and I just don't want that, I think he has the right to say no. Unless there is that rare occasion where if you have a public benefit, then eminent domain is really important. But eminent domain for private gain is not a good thing, so thank you.
Okay, one last question.
I appreciate that. Hopefully this is a quick question. My name's Travis Swisher. I'm a township board member northeast of here. I'm a farmer. I'm a father. I'm Gail's favorite son-in-law. And that's on record now, Gail. So my question, I probably got many of them, but through this whole carbon pipeline process, there's been some huge lies.
Question.
Yes. With all this testimony going on, why is nobody sworn in? Why is nobody held accountable? Why are all these ethanol plants, carbon solvent solutions, everybody that gets up and be positive for them, when they just flat out lie about where things are going to be, safety setbacks, you name it, and then they don't get held accountable? Not to mention all these bills that, well, some carbon solutions is not paying anymore. I mean, when does this just all fall apart? And the question is, where's the accountability to the people that are going to come in here and destroy our natural habitat, our ethanol plants, and everything that's going to come with it?
Thank you. Anybody want to respond to that? Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? All right. Is there one last question? Yes.
I am Miranda Goen from Aberdeen. Say, I consider myself an old school South Dakota moderate Democrat. I do believe in human activity caused climate change. But that being said, I completely oppose this pipeline. I believe there's other ways, and I've always believed there's other ways that we can deal with this issue.
What's your question?
Thank you, Julie. I went to the meeting for the opposition for Summit Pipeline in December at the Ramcota Inn. It was excellent as far as the information. So here's what my concern is. You know, you're talking about livelihoods, you're talking about generational investment that's being affected.
Question.
Thank you. Why, we're going, and I appreciate our local delegation standing firm and opposing this, but I get this feeling that it's all been prearranged, especially with the absence of a healthy opposition party to hold the other in check. That we're going through theatrics right now. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just hope we can get this killed.
Is that a question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, the question is, since I have to ask one, is why do I get the feeling that this is said and done by leadership?
Anybody want to respond to that?
I think today is a testament to exactly what you're trying to illustrate. We've heard a whole host of issues here, whether we're supportive, whether we're not supportive, whether things are accurate, whether things are not accurate. This is part of that process, and it's not easy. And I can tell you, trust me, a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of us don't sleep at all when we're in Pierre and don't sleep when we're at home. Representative Wangston has talked about the thousands of letters, thousands of emails, thousands of text messages, and hundreds of phone calls. We take this job serious. We do the best we can, and we're not right on every topic. You go home, you can make a decision, and you're held accountable for that. Every decision we make is publicized, and we're held accountable for that. At the end of the day, I can sleep well knowing that I can stand up for the decision that I made. Can I say verbatim it's right every time? No. Not every vote that I make is going to be right, and I apologize in advance. But we're doing the best we can, and hopefully we can have a better South Dakota tomorrow by having these types of events and holding people accountable.
Anyone else want to add to that? All right, that brings us to the time when our legislators get to wrap us up. I think we'll start at the other end of the table. Are you okay with that, Senator Norstrup?
I thank everybody for coming. It did get a little warm in here today, and we do try to disagree respectfully. I made a statement that said that there's a possibility that we could get an emergency clause with a 50% vote. The senator from Miller brought up a good point. And his point was that if it's added in the conference committee, then it takes a 2/3 vote. I don't know the answer, and I am glad to admit I was wrong if I was wrong, but what I envision is if it comes from the House with an emergency clause, now you've got one bill with an emergency clause and another bill without an emergency clause in the conference committee, and it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, and if I am, I'll very much apologize and admit it publicly. The question is, if you got two bills that come into conference committee, which is the definition of a conference committee is when you have two different bills, and one comes in with the emergency clause and the Senate one doesn't, is that going to take a 2/3 vote back at the House and the Senate? And that's something I'm going to have to check with LRC and check the rule book. He raised as a question or issue that could be right, so I'll concede that it's a possibility. I hope he's right, because that means that it's going to take a 2/3 vote to take away the authority or the ability of the citizens to have a petition to overturn the legislature. So we'll see. And like I say, I'll gladly admit I'm wrong and pray and hope I'm wrong. So with that, it's been a busy time. Senator from Miller made a point that we don't sleep well. Well, that's absolutely true. We got a lot of time where we're up early and up late and doing the best we can. And everybody up here is a servant leader, which means we're here to serve. We're not here to, we're doing the best we can. Oh, the other comment I make, there was a comment was made earlier that Julie was a lobbyist for Carbon Summit, and I looked it up, and they have 13 lobbyists, and Julie's name is not on the list. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carl Perry, and I'm in the House of Representatives, and I'm in District 3, and there's usually nothing going on in our district, and everybody sings Kumbaya and loves each other. And Miranda, when she asked one of her questions, it seems like things are taken care of and there's already a decision made. It's not true. Could seem that way. It even seems that way to me sometimes. But we're out there, we are really trying hard to make a difference, and we will fight the fight. And, I guess when I was a younger person, and I was a younger person at one time, I did wrestle. And the one thing I will tell you about wrestling is you're not always on top. But if you get on the bottom, Al Norstrup was a college wrestler for the South Dakota State University. And he will tell you that if you're on the bottom, you can sit there and feel bad about it, or you can do something about it. And that's what we're trying to do, is do something about it. But last year or 2 years ago, And last year, we ended up with $31 million for Northern. That's a good thing that we did. The water projects with WINS, we can take a lot of credit for this, and if you really like the project, it's because we did it. But the truth is that Julie did a lot of the work on that. And so WINS is really good for this area. The $200 million infrastructure that we got approved, I voted on that 6 times before it finally was approved. And it wasn't approved by 100 votes. It was approved like by 1 or 2. So if you like the fact that we have infrastructure, it's because I voted for it. If you don't like it, those other guys, I don't know what they were thinking. But I do work on taxation. I'm the vice chair of Commerce and Energy. And if there's a area to work on this year that's interesting, Commerce and Energy has been getting a lot of the tough accounts or the tough bills, and also Health and Human Services. Those are really, really tough areas. And then I'm on retirement laws. I love retirement laws because we give away money. We got $14.6 billion set aside, and we're going to be able to continue to be a fully funded program, and people like that when they know they're going to get their money. But Leadership Aberdeen was there this week. Gail and the Aberdeen Area Chamber of Commerce, them putting this program on like they do. Dakota Broadcasting, Adam back there. This is Saturday. He could be doing a lot of different things, but he's here because he actually cares about people. And when he has his radio shows, if you listen to him, he asks some really good questions of everyone. Aberdeen Insider is here. Hub City Radio is here. Neil Schnoor, the president of Northern, started off saying such great things that we just love that guy. And then Mike Bockerney, Aberdeen Development Corporation. That's a hardworking young man. And he does a lot for the community, but he also does a lot for the state with his economic development throughout the state. But Maddie Vetter was there this week, and we recognized her. She's from Aberdeen, and she's going to end up running for South Dakota State, Miss South Dakota. And then Miranda Maz was there, and she was Miss Aberdeen. Miranda was a page twice. Brandy Schaefbauer was a page. So good people are pages. I just wanted you to know that. And then the Miss Junior was there. Deutsch, she was there too. So Miss Aberdeen Junior Aberdeen was there. And I do have gifts on the end of the table. Those are yours, absolutely free. There are no connections. You don't have to vote for me, but if you want them, take them. Have a good day, and thank you for coming.
Again, thank you for coming. These are always very interesting and informative ways to spend a couple hours on your Saturday. So, a lot of the things that we talked about today are, of course, with the pipeline, private property rights, eminent domain. That's usually the big elephant in the room. But there's also other issues that we have to deal with and vote on, and we are praying that we are making the right decisions. Just this last week, we voted on the floor. How do we deal with the crime of sexual assault? Well, I'm going to say it was a little easier to vote on that one. And Friday we were supposed to vote on one, how do we deal with child molestation? That's not an easy topic to even think about voting on or even discussing. So, my point is all of the stuff that we are trying to vote on and do our very best at the state level are all about human rights in one way or another. The right of personal autonomy, personal integrity, our private property rights, what our Constitution guarantees us, what hopefully we as legislators guarantee you as our constituents and the citizens of South Dakota. Hopefully our vote reflects that. Some other things that, because, like I said, the pipeline's this huge deal that we're dealing with, which gets down to all the basics of what life is. We have like 7 ballot initiatives that are going to be on the general ballot. How many of you know what they are? You know, grocery tax is one. Putting abortion into our state's constitution is another one. Repealing the medical marijuana program. Boy, wouldn't that be great if that was repealed and we did all this work for the last how many years and now it's, you know, the program's dead. You know, putting recreational marijuana on the ballot. There's so many things that we have to deal with when we are in peer and just to be, you know, an informed public. One of the bills that we passed out of the House and is going to the Senate, and maybe it's already been in the Senate. One of the things when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and when our trigger law went into effect, doctors wanted to clarifications on what determines the life of the mother. Well, if you're pro-life, that's pretty simple to say. You do whatever you can to save the life of the mother and pray that the baby is not a victim. But, you know, there's a medical video, very educational, just medical, nothing religious going out that we hope the Senate will approve of, and that will help doctors make informed decisions. But like I said, my whole point is that there are so many issues, and you know, when we vote on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and when that is how we vote as representatives and senators, and the people that you elect, hopefully they vote that way. I think that by doing that, we will keep South Dakota good, and I think, you know, many people will want to come back here and live, and you know, when people come here, our economic areas of our state will definitely boom. So again, thank you for coming, and I'm always free for questions, comments. You might not want some of my comments, but I'll give them to you. Thank you.
You definitely don't seem to like some of my comments, but anyway, you know, I'm going to keep working on these pipeline issues. I'm trying to get as much as I can for landowners. These bills in front of us actually have a lot of really good things for landowners. It doesn't go as far as everybody'd like, but it does go a long ways. The amendment is now live online. It just dropped here a few minutes ago if people wanted to review that. But, you know, I do work for the landowners. I work for my constituents. I am a landowner. I take it very seriously. I'm I'm pragmatic, and I'm a realist. You got to get what you can get. You can't, you know, and there's things here that we'll never have another chance to get. And so in that aspect, you know, I'm here for questions and everything else, and, you know, happy to listen.
I'm just going to close again. I spend a majority of my time on appropriations, so Representative Schaefbauer talked about this a little bit. There's a lot of things going on. Obviously, today was consumed about landowners' rights and pipelines, and we understand that completely. It directly affects us here. But there's a lot of other things that we don't have a choice. We're going to be involved in. And again, Representative Schaefbauer talked about some of those. From a finance standpoint, I'm just going to highlight a few of them. You know, the significant amount of time and resources and research that have gone into setting up the men's and women's prison to be successful long term. $7 million for cybersecurity for local governments, includes all municipalities and counties, and then there's discussion about expanding that to townships, ambulance districts, and so on and so forth. Quantum information science and technology. Quantum information is a huge advancement in technological, I'm just going to say, success of the information age. We have a $3.5 million investment in that between Dakota State University and School of Mines. Ivy League schools on the East Coast are working on this, and we are developing this program here in South Dakota, and there's not a lot in between. The subject of reading accountability, the standards are changing for that, and so funding to help teachers learn this new curriculum, that is out there. Technology for senior providers, healthcare providers. So there's a lot of new technology that's allowing people to stay at home longer. Some of that technology is expensive. It takes time to figure out how to get it in the system. We're providing some grant opportunities so that organizations can invest in that and keep people at home. Wildland fire stations, the Forest Service out in Rapid City or the Black Hills, we don't talk about that here. It's not of any value to any of us here. But at South Dakota, we're accountable for that. And so there's some dollars going out to wildland fire stations. We are very close to the Richmond Lake Dam project. There's dollars for that. Teacher apprenticeship pathway programs. That's an apprenticeship program that allows a teacher's aide who has some years of college. It's kind of like a degree completion program. And we have 90 students going through that right now. This will add another 55 to that, so great opportunity. And then some of the last items on here, domestic violence is a challenge that all of us face in South Dakota. And so some of those federal dollars have been tight. And so we're adding some dollars into that to help protect the social network of our communities as well. From an ongoing standpoint, tuition freeze for our universities, and then enhanced stipends for our South Dakota National Guard members for education as well. There's a lot of topics out there. A lot of time and research, a lot of investment goes into all of that. We didn't get to any of those topics today, and I feel bad for that. But we know what's important right here, and we know that we're going to spend a lot of time on these topics that are important to all of our constituents here, as well as some responsibilities we have for the state of South Dakota. Again, I thank you for your coming today. Obviously, all of us are going to be here for a little while, and more than willing to talk to you afterwards as well.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our legislative coffees for this year. I appreciate our delegation for being with us. Thank you, all of you. Thank you to all of our hosts. Thank you to Northern for being here, and thank you to Dakota Broadcasting. Thank you. Have a great day.